Welcome to the CDE's Implementing STEAM, Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics Initiatives to Strengthen P3 Alignment webinar. We are very excited to be here with you today. My name is Valentina Ware, and I work in the Early Education Division, or EED, and I am one of the presenters for today's webinar. We have a few quick logistics to run through before we get started. First, we will be taking Q&A or question and answer in the Q&A feature, so please feel free to communicate with us there and ask questions if needed, and we will do our best to address them. Lastly, the slide deck and webinar recording will be made available. The announcement will be shared through the P3 listserv, so if you're currently not subscribed, details on how to join will be posted in the chat shortly. I will now pass it over to Stephen Profiter, Director of EED, to provide a welcome. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Valentina. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the Implementing STEAM Initiatives to Strengthen P3 Alignment webinar. It's amazing to say that this is our 24th edition of the Opportunities for All branch pre-kindergarten through third grade, or P3 webinar series. I'll begin by introducing myself and today's speakers. My name is Stephen Profiter. I'm the Director of the Early Education Division at the California Department of Education. We are thrilled that you have taken time to join us for this important topic. With me from CDE, we have Dr. Lily Moffitt, Education Research and Evaluation Consultant in the Early Education Division, as well as Valentina Ware, Child Development Consultant at the Early Education Division, who you just heard from. Next slide, please. In addition to our team from CDE, we are joined by several speakers from across California who will share insights into STEAM initiatives happening throughout the state. Starting with Amy Boltina, who is the Director of Arts at the Stanislaus County Office of Education. Next, we are joined by Janine Flores, who is the Arts and STEAM Coordinator from the Los Angeles County Office of Education. Next slide, please. We will also hear from our partners representing the Count, Play, Explore initiative here in California, starting with Dr. Matilda Soria, who is the Executive Director of Child and Family Success at the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. Second, we have John Dweck, who is a Content Coordinator at the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. And finally, we have Naomi Reilly, who is a Program Coordinator in the Early Care and Education Department at the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. We also have 4 amazing panelists who we will introduce later in the webinar to talk more about their STEAM programs. You will definitely want to stick around to hear from that panel. And a huge thanks to all of our external partners for committing your time to collaborate on this important effort of implementing STEAM initiatives to strengthen P3 alignment. As we move into today's presentation, I would like to set the stage for what we hope you will take away from today's session. Our goal is to inspire. Whether you are just beginning your STEAM journey, looking to strengthen your current program, or working to sustain the great work you've already started, as you listen, we'd like you to keep a couple of questions in mind. First, what does authentic integration of all STEAM components look like in your setting? And second, how can you make STEAM learning a joyful and a meaningful experience for young learners? Throughout the session, feel free to jot down ideas that resonate with you. I'm old school. I have a pen and notepad right next to me. And this could be for something that you could possibly take back to your team and put into action. By the end, we hope you'll have at least one clear step to start, strengthen, or sustain your STEAM program. And without further ado, I will now hand it over to Lily, who will introduce CDE's STEAM vision and definition for preschool through third grade. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Steve. And so really, I wanted to just, present our official kind of STEAM definition and vision. And this work came about through a state network facilitated by the Education Commission of the States and the Arts Education Partnership. And through that state network, the CDE was able to engage and work with the field and partners to create a vision and definition for STEAM in the preschool through third grade space. So our definition is that STEAM is the purposeful integration of science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. And in preschool through third grade, or P3, STEAM learning promotes student collaboration, problem solving, creativity, agency, and joy through playful, authentic, and active learning experiences. Next slide, please. And our vision is that we as a state have a shared and improved understanding of STEAM throughout California, where the arts is more purposefully integrated into STEAM to support learning of both foundational and applied skills and concepts across content areas. STEAM learning should also expand implementation across a variety of setting types, whether that be in a family child care home, a community-based organization, the libraries, classrooms, after-school settings, and even at home. An overall successful STEAM teaching builds a robust and equitable foundation of instructional practices and content knowledge for school leaders, educators, families, and students to apply in their future educational experiences and their lives. And as a note, this vision could evolve over time, but currently we really wanted to emphasize this attention and a nod to purposeful integration of the arts, which you'll see as a theme in this webinar today. And we just think it's really important to elevate that. Next slide, please. So to help bring this vision to life, we have some amazing presenters who Steve introduced earlier. And to provide a bit more background on our first presenter, so Amy Boltena is the Director of Arts at the Stanislaus County Office of Education and the Region 6 lead for the California County Superintendent's Arts Initiative. She's a certified trauma-informed arts facilitator and holds a BFA in art, an MAT in art education, and an EDS in inclusive education. And guided by William Morris's words, I do not want art for a few any more than education for a few, any more than freedom for a few. Amy's work centers on making the arts a universal right where every student can thrive, connect, and discover their potential. So again, Amy is really bringing the A today in STEAM. Something you saw is an intentional focus in our definition and vision, and will really help bring to life how to ensure authentic integration of the arts in STEAM programs. So I'll pass it over to Amy.
Hi, thank you for having me. So next slide, please. So embrace creativity. All art is good art. There is only right in art making. It doesn't matter what the art looks like, and creative process is more important than product. When we say embrace creativity, we're really talking about how art is a strength-based discipline. That means art starts with who students already are, their experiences, their interests, and their ways of seeing the world, and it treats those things as assets instead of deficits. In the arts, there's no single right way to begin. Every student has a valid entry point because art making naturally meets kids where they are. One student might express through color and movement, another through careful observation and detail, and both are equally valuable. Strength-based learning in the arts focuses on what students can do and uses that as the foundation to help them grow. When we emphasize the creative process, which includes experimenting, making choices, reflecting, and revising, we're helping students build confidence, problem-solving skills, and resilience that carry far beyond the arts room. Ultimately, arts invites all learners in. It celebrates individuality, it honors multiple perspectives, and it provides a place where every student can experience success and belonging. Next slide. So as of 2020, we have new arts standards. They emphasize the process of art making, and the standards prior to 2020 really emphasized more the final product of art making. And this is a big shift for all of us in the arts and probably for you as well. There are 4 artistic processes that go across all of the arts disciplines, and they are creating, performing or presenting, responding, and connecting. Next slide. So we have process-based learning, and the California Arts Framework provides guidance related to process-based learning in the arts. It says, arts education has traditionally focused on specific aspects of each discipline. The standards call for more attention to process and consideration of balancing process and product-oriented learning. Next slide. So here are some of the hallmarks for product-oriented arts learning. So we've got product-oriented, and it says focus on final artwork, excuse me, emphasizes specific techniques or content, guided by teacher model and directions, success is measured by uniform outcomes, and it might be assessed on correctness and completion. And here we have, in the bottom right there, a learning goal that we might have seen pre-2020 art standards. So the learning goal says, students will create a watercolor painting based on Matisse's Goldfish. Here are some examples of student work based on this learning goal, right above the learning goal. And yes, they look different, but essentially the students are providing the same answer or result to the learning goal. The emphasis is on the final product. There's a right answer and a wrong answer. Now there's nothing, I don't want you to hear me say that there's anything inherently wrong with product-based learning. There are times when product-based learning makes sense and is appropriate, especially when we are teaching new skills. The shift here is that our new art standards require educators to emphasize the process of art making. Next slide. So now we're going to talk a little bit about process-oriented. So process-oriented focuses on thinking, exploring, and choice. It emphasizes skills, inquiry, and creativity. It's guided by open-ended questions. Growth is shown through unique outcomes, and it's assessed through reflection and problem solving. Here we have a learning goal that is aligned to the new art standards. That's in the gray box. The learning goal says, drawing inspiration from Matisse's Goldfish, students will create their own goldfish visual story using watercolor and collage. And above that are some examples of student work based on this learning goal. In these student examples, you can see very different answers or results to the learning goal. One student has depicted the fish on vacation in a special glass. The other student shows as a fish who's in a little bit of trouble. In these examples, you can see how students thought about their work and explored different answers. You can see the creative choices that each student has made. And overall, the students have had more autonomy and more creative independence. And this is really where the magic happens in process-based learning. Students get to add their own value. Next slide. So now that we know a little bit more about process-oriented, let's look at some examples of process-oriented visual art projects for early learners. The learning goal here says, using a variety of art-making tools, students engage in self-directed collaborative art making to create, quote, the best place for a toy to live. In this project, you can see how students will have vastly different answers to this creative problem. Next slide. Let's look at another example. So here our learning goal says, using a variety of art-making tools, students engage in self-directed art making to create a sculpture inspired by artist Louise Nevelson. Louise Nevelson is an artist who creates sculpture collages and then paints the entire piece one color. Here you can see students can combine their sculpture elements in a variety of ways to achieve their own artwork. There are 1,000, maybe more, different ways to have a, quote, right answer. Next slide. So what are the benefits of process art for our early learners? Well, the first is that it's standards aligned and developmentally appropriate. You've probably already noticed that in the things I've shared. Process-based learning supports social emotional learning. It helps students relax, succeed, and express emotions. Process-based learning builds literacy. So art making actually activates the verbal processing parts of our brain. So when we create art, our brain is actively helping us to find words for what we're doing and or feeling where we previously did not have words. Process-based art making strengthens cognition, especially in comparing, predicting, planning, and problem solving. And not unsurprisingly, it also helps develop fine motor skills. Next slide. So now we know what process-based arts learning is and looks like. Let's talk about arts integration. The California Arts Framework defines arts integrated instruction as co-equal instruction in which students are learning and being assessed equally in one or more arts disciplines through the art standards for artistic processes and one or more other subject areas. Next slide. So the A in STEAM is not decoration. It's exploration, it's inquiry, and it's meaning making. But because many educators may lack confidence in arts-based creating, have limited experiences with arts learning themselves, and or feel that they're not, quote, an arts person, we often see the A in STEAM as an afterthought. Some examples of A as an afterthought are singing a song about rain and including that as the A in STEAM, or creating a quick sketch of a concept. While both of these examples provide some arts access that students may not have had previously, they are unlikely to be robust enough to truly represent the A in STEAM, especially when you consider the framework definition of arts integration. Next slide. So then how are educators supposed to know if the arts they are doing are robust enough to be the A in STEAM? Well, I like to use a checklist, I'm a checklist person, which can apply to any of the disciplines within the STEAM framework. So it's a STEAM self-reflection. There's 4 bullets. The first one said, did I integrate subject in a clear and intentional way? Does the unit review an important topic in the subject? Does the unit address at least one subject standard? Does the unit help students deepen or evolve their understanding of the subject? You'll notice that standards are directly called out on this checklist. In an ideal world, every STEAM unit would align to at least one standard for each of the disciplines: science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. But that is a really high bar to meet, both in terms of quantity and time. So I want to encourage you to try STEAM, and I want to validate your past and future STEAM experiences by saying it's okay to do SEAM, STEAM, STAM, TEAM, EAM, or any other variation. Research tells us that students learn more during integrated learning, but writing and teaching integrated units is hard. And anytime you're integrating, you're doing something that is more robust than usual, and that's a good thing. So be kind to yourself and give yourself some grace. Next slide. We're going to look at the checklist in action. Next slide. So we're going to use these standards to create a project. And there is going to be a link that pops up in the chat as a cheat sheet for these standards to know a little bit more about them. But we're looking at a science standard for kindergarten that says use observations to describe patterns of what plants and animals, including humans, need to survive. We're looking at a kindergarten visual art standard that says create art that represents natural and constructed environments. We're looking at a math standard that says correctly name shapes regardless of their orientations or overall size. And we're also looking at a literacy standard that says use a combination of drawing, dictating, and writing to compose informative texts which they name what they are writing about and supplies some information about the topic. Next slide. So I spoke before about examples of arts learning that may not be robust enough to be the A in STEAM. And here we have an activity where students are learning about the parts of a flower. Students need to color, cut, and arrange the flower parts in the correct order. Coloring and cutting are visual arts skills, and they are also skills early learners need to practice. Having said that, let's look at this activity and compare it to the STEAM checklist. So we have the worksheet on the left-hand side. We have the checklist on the right. The checklist says, did I integrate visual art in a clear and intentional way? Does the unit review an important topic in visual art? Does the unit address at least one visual art standard? Does the unit help students deepen or evolve their understanding of visual art? After examining the checklist, it's pretty obvious that while this is a good and developmentally appropriate activity that does include visual arts skills, it's not robust enough to be the A in STEAM. Next slide. Let's look at another example of an activity using the same standards. Here, students are asked to create a collage in the style of artist Hundertwasser. I know that's a fun word or fun name, showing the parts of a plant using lines, shapes, and colors. Let's evaluate this student example next to the STEAM checklist. So you see the same STEAM checklist on the slide. Did I integrate visual art in a clear and intentional way? Does the unit review an important topic in visual art? Does the unit address at least one visual art standard? And does the unit help students deepen or evolve their understanding of art? After comparing to the checklist, we can see this example is robust enough to be the A in STEAM. Next slide. Let's look at some examples. These are all projects coming up that I co-authored with my colleague, Rudy Escobar, who's the STEM coordinator at the Stanislaus County Office of Education. Rudy and I have provided access to the slide decks for these projects to you, and you will find them in my presentation handout that has just been dropped into the chat. Next slide. So in this STEAM lesson, Rudy and I were teaching about biomimicry. And so students are designing a car inspired by nature. They are a car designer. They have to choose an animal. They have to think about how the animal could inspire a car. And then they have to decide what problems will the new car help humans solve. And so students eventually had to draw and color their car. They had a choice to be inspired by a monkey, a shark, or an elephant. Next slide. Let's look at another example. This was a really fun one. Rudy and I wanted to find a different way to teach about push, pull, and force. Again, students engaged in explorations related to push and pull. We integrated art by looking at different images of circus performers being launched out of cannons, and then the students were able to build their own cannon. So the project goal here was, by interacting with different materials and tools, create objects that demonstrate that when you apply force to an object, it moves in different directions. And the kids really loved this one. Next slide. This project is a great example of process over product. The final products of this project are not necessarily the most beautiful or aesthetically pleasing, but students learned so much about gravity through the process of making them. Amy Shackleton is an artist who paints without paintbrushes. She only uses gravity. She sets her canvas up on a tool similar to a Lazy Susan that is mounted on the wall. She applies paint and then turns the canvas to utilize gravity to create the shapes in her composition. It is a fantastic example of how artists use science to create their works. So the project goal here is students harness gravity and the knowledge that gravity pulls down no matter the change in angles to create a painting inspired by the work of artist Amy Shackleton. Next slide. When it comes to early learners, being able to develop learning opportunities that speak to their lived experiences is incredibly powerful. In this project, Rudy and I wanted the students to understand shade. So the learning goal here, project goal here, says the playground gets too hot to use on warm days. Use what you know about sunshine and shade to create shade for the playground. Students could choose from a variety of materials to build shade for the model playground. In this student example, you can see the artwork isn't particularly effective at providing shade. But remember, in process-based learning, there are lots of right answers, and having a model or artwork that doesn't work as designed teaches us just as much, maybe more, than the example that does work as expected. Next slide. One of the things that Rudy is always asking educators to think about, especially when it comes to engineering, is how Indigenous people currently solve or historically have solved engineering problems. This STEAM unit is about water filtration. Many Indigenous American peoples used woven materials like baskets to filter water. Most of the students that Rudy and I work with live in the Central Valley with close proximity to Yosemite Park. So for this project, we looked to local Indigenous artists. Lucy Tellis is a Paiute artist who worked mostly in Yosemite Valley. We looked at her work as inspiration for this project. And so the project goal here is experiment with coil weaving. It's inspired by Paiute artist Pahamas Lucy Tellis to create a device that helps to filter water. Next slide. So I've shown you some pretty out there STEAM arts ideas, but the A in STEAM doesn't always have to be super complicated. In this unit, students were exploring shadows and light, and teachers asked Rudy and me if we could include a text from their literacy curriculum, and we were really excited to do that. The final result was this super fun project that students had a blast creating. So the project goal here is students will conduct an investigation about shadows and light by building a silhouette puppet show retelling The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Next slide. So if you're an educator or administrator wanting to get started with STEAM, here is what I believe teachers need. We need excitement for it. We need planning time. We need professional learning. We need materials and space, and we need community partnerships. Now, I get at least one email a week from someone asking about materials to begin a STEAM lab or a similar space. So what I've done is put together a list of materials that would be worthy of consideration for the creation of a STEAM space, and you can find these in my session handout that has been dropped in the chat. Most of these materials are things that are already lying about in a school. Remember, it's about process, not product. It's okay for the final product to be a little ugly as long as the kids were learning. What I want to emphasize is that the materials are far less important than the process. You can do a lot with humble materials. I'm sharing the picture on this slide because it's from a maker event we host at Stanislaus County Office of Education. In it, one of our community partners, Modesto Art Academy, has brought a variety of recycled materials for students to build whatever they want. At our maker event, this is always our most popular station. Students love to sit, grab garbage, and make stuff. And I think it's really easy to forget that our students aren't growing up with the boredom and make-do experiences that we likely experienced as children. Their opportunities to just creatively make stuff are much more limited than ours were. I also think that this picture underscores the importance of community partnerships. It would not have occurred to me to have a station where kids just make whatever they want from trash at the maker event. But our community partner, Modesto Art Academy, was insistent that it was a good idea. And ultimately I went with it, and it's our most popular exhibit. So community partnerships don't just serve to get community involved with kids and vice versa. They also create the space for us as educators to be challenged with new ideas. Next slide. So thank you so much for letting me speak to you today. I apologize. Again, the resources I shared with you are available in my session handout. If you have any questions or need a thought partner, please do not hesitate to reach out. And thank you again.
Thank you, Amy. And thank you for bringing arts integration to life, including sharing some concrete examples. I know the audience probably really enjoyed those examples and seeing that. So now that we have a better idea of bringing the A in STEAM, we really want to highlight the importance of leadership in this space, because a STEAM program does not just magically appear out of thin air, and it needs robust support to be implemented effectively. So to hear a bit more about this, I'm going to pass it over to Miss Janine Flores, who is the LACO Arts and STEAM Coordinator in the Center for Distance and Online Learning. Janine has been in education for 28 years. And she was, prior to being at LACO, she was the VAPA coordinator for the Santa Clara County Office of Education. And she's also a board member for Create California and the Los Angeles Regional Arts Lead for the California County Superintendents. And statewide, Janine is an advocate for equity and access for all students through her leadership. And she's really passionate about arts education because of the life-changing impact the arts have on students' lives. So I'm going to pass it over to Janine. Next slide.
Thank you, Dr. Moffitt. Next slide. All right. I'm going to be talking today about your STEAM considerations for your site leaders. And next slide. And to do that, I'm going to talk about three different things. First is creating a successful environment, followed by professional development support, and lastly, funding sources. Next slide. Let's first look at the fundamental components of arts education. This is a relevant way to ensure leadership is addressing the needs of a STEAM program at their school. This comes from the California Arts Education Framework for public schools. I would like to highlight Chapter 9 of the California Arts Education Framework as a guide for requirements for STEAM education programs as well as arts education programs. The fundamental components of arts education that you see on your screen can help improve programs and provide a roadmap to ensure every California student has access to sequential, standards-based, effective TK through grade 12 education, whether that's in the arts or STEAM. This graphic is from the California Arts Education Framework, and we're going to discuss each component briefly. Next slide. First, let's look at standards-based curriculum. I will read the screen. Curriculum or a course of study is the content and plan for instruction. It is made up of the instructional resources, methods, and assessments needed to help students develop critical skills and knowledge. Along with high quality and effective instruction, curriculum is an essential element that enables students to learn and thrive. As site leaders, focusing on the curriculum is a very vital part. And when we have these cross-disciplinary approaches, the curriculum provides the teachers with guidance on how to integrate instruction that includes the arts and technology and engineering. Next slide. The second component is scheduling. The slide reads, effective learning at the elementary level requires time for discrete instruction in each arts discipline to build foundational literacy, language, knowledge, and skills. This learning can be integrated, utilized, or revised as students are learning in other content areas taught within their classroom. We know there's competing priorities that have the potential to become a barrier to students' access to learning. So carefully planning and scheduling so we can avoid conflicts is critical to protect equitable access to a well-rounded education. And if you do not have access to single subject credential arts teachers, you could support your multiple subject teachers with arts integration and STEAM learning, and providing that professional learning to make arts education more accessible for all of our students. Next slide. Third on the list is our staffing of qualified teachers. Arts educators include multiple subject, single subject, and career technical education teachers who are recognized and respected as part of the school community and equal contributors to students' well-rounded education. They're also supported, like teachers of other content areas, with resources and materials necessary to teach the arts and with ongoing professional learning, and included and invited to contribute as equal members in district and school efforts, initiatives, and decisions. Next slide. Where are we going to teach our STEAM classes? Our facilities. Facilities built and maintained to provide teaching, learning, and performing environments that are physically safe, and spaces that enable a creative, inclusive environment offer a foundation for students to authentically learn and safely thrive in the arts, as well as in our STEAM or our Fab Lab. We want these spaces where students can create, they could revise, produce, perform, or present their work. Next, slide 5, safety. For our educators and for our students, we need to know, understand, and adhere to guidelines and codes, all spaces. We want to follow safety guidelines in art making processes, as well as our engineering practices. We are trained for safe use of handling tools, supplies, equipments, and materials, can access appropriate and well-maintained safety apparel and equipment. know the location of safety kits and fire extinguishers, and are trained in their use, and that we are going to follow fire, stage, and shop safety protocol outlines and guidelines from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Our last component is on the next slide, and that is arts, materials, and equipment. Let's look at technology first. Students have access to and choices of technology to engage in emerging and contemporary art practices, explore multiple approaches to developing portfolios, engage in collaboration, and access to additional instructional supports as needed. Funding. Districts and school budgets support equal access to necessary arts education-related expenditures and instructional materials and provide for ongoing maintenance of tools, equipment, and technology. There is guidance in our education code around instructional materials, as well as the State Board of Education guidelines. In the California Arts Education Framework, you can find this in Chapter 10. Next slide. I wanted to talk about professional development for teachers a little bit. I referenced that several times in the last few slides. Next slide, please. Sorry. Stay here. All right. So the characteristics for quality professional learning from the Quality Professional Learning Standards states, professional learning should be rooted in student and educator needs based on data, focused on content and pedagogy, designed to ensure equitable outcomes, and designed and structured to be ongoing, intensive, and embedded in practice. Collaborative with an emphasis on shared accountability, supported by adequate resources, and coherent and aligned with other standards, policies, and programs. This is referenced in our California Arts Education Framework on page 692. It's a great resource. Next slide. So the elements of effective professional learning for the STEAM classroom, as well as an arts education classroom. In the LPI Institute, or LPI report, the Learning Policy Institute report, the most effective professional learning includes the following: that we're focusing on the content, that you're active learning, it's active learning utilizing adult learning theory, collaboration, typically in job embedded contexts, models and modeling of effective practice, coaching and expert support, opportunities for feedback and reflection, and it's sustained over time. The authors of the report define effective professional development as structured professional learning that results in changes in teacher practices and improvements in student learning outcomes. Next slide. We also need to provide professional learning for our administrators, our school, and our district leaders. Leaders and personnel assigned responsibility for arts education benefit from arts education-focused professional learning. Leaders may have disciplinary expertise or experience in one of the art contents, but not all. And engagement in professional learning communities, or PLCs, focused on the arts education can be effective to foster collaborative professional learning. And PLCs can be regional or district-based and organized through partnerships or collaboration with established arts agencies. Given the multiple demands on our administrators' times, engagement in these PLCs may be very beneficial. You can also reach out to outside arts education experts or organizations to help facilitate these PLCs. Thank you. Next slide. Next, and the third area I wanted to go over was funding. How do we fund a STEAM program? Next slide. I'm going to talk about 4 different sources of money available to most LEAs in the state. The first one will be the Local Control and Accountability Plan, or called LCAP. The second will be Arts and Music in Our Schools Funding and Accountability Act, We call that AMS or Prop 28. The third area will be expanded learning opportunities programs, or our ELOP money. And the last one will be the Title I monies about improving academic achievement. Next slide. This is a graphic of our LCAP, the different 8 priorities that we have. You notice that there's 3 under conditions for learning with the blue background. We have 3 under engagement, and we have 2 listed under pupil outcomes. For STEAM education, I'm going to look and leverage pupil engagement, school climate, as well as pupil achievement. Next slide. So the local control accountability plan. Every LEA has a 3-year strategic plan to align financial resources with local educational goals to achieve positive student outcomes. So by writing your STEAM program into your LCAP, a school can ensure alignment with district education goals. While the STEAM education can speak to many of the 8 LCAP priorities, the 3 that most align include, again, pupil engagement, school climate, and pupil achievement. Next slide. The other funding source is arts and music in our schools. AMS was a ballot initiative that was approved by voters in November 2022. It provides funding for more art and music instructors in schools. It also supports funding associated with supplies, curriculum, professional development. STEAM can look to AMS funds to create makerspaces, fab labs, STEAM centers, and other STEAM programs that align with the funding guidelines. This money is ongoing. This also can be used for hiring teachers if the course is written so it shows that more arts instruction is happening for students. Next slide. The Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, ELOP, is a state initiative to offer enrichment activities that support academic, social, emotional, and physical development beyond the school day. This funding supports students in grades TK through grade 6 before school, after school, and during summer school. This can be a good model for collaboration with other organizations in your community and help to be connected more with your community. Next slide. And lastly, there's Title I funding. And Title I funding looks to improving academic achievement. This is federal money to support students from low-income families. In California, Title I helps identify areas of focus for the California dashboard, including academic performance, college and career, chronic absenteeism, and graduation rate, and English learner progress. Next slide. So to help you with that, and it was a lot of resources. Next slide. We've provided some links for you that will be shared in the chat and follow-up email. Resources for professional development and program development that I highly encourage you to check out is the California STEAM Symposium. This offers professional development as well as some other resources to help school leaders. Here at the Los Angeles County Office of Education, we have Technology Enhanced Arts Learning. It's an online professional development that is free to anyone in the state, and it teaches you how to integrate the arts as well as STEAM while using social emotional learning, and English language development is interwoven throughout the whole instructional course. The third link is for the Institute for Arts Integration and STEAM. This is a national organization that provides resources for teachers, as well as a conference on arts integration and STEAM. And the last resource I want to lift up is your local county office of education. The previous presenter was Amy Bultana, and I'm Janine Flores. We represent 2 of our counties. So There are one of us in each of the county offices of education. Please reach out to them if you need any support. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Janine. Next slide, please. I now want to pass it over to our partners at Count, Play, Explore, who will tell you a little bit about their statewide initiative that is specific to children birth to 8, which aligns with our P3 focus today. So we'll hear from Dr. Matilda Soraya from Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, and she leads initiatives in early learning, health, cradle to career pathways, and support for foster and homeless youth. And she has more than 20 years of experience and has advanced policies and partnerships that strengthen family engagement and improve outcomes for children and families. We also have John Dueck, who's the director, who's a program coordinator, content coordinator at the Office of Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, and helps coordinate Count, Play, Explore as part of the Fresno County Early Care and Education team. And John works closely with educators and administrators to build programs that promote a worthwhile and optimistic view of math and science, and help shows families in the community that STEAM is all around us. And we also have Naomi Reilly, who's a program coordinator as well at FCSS, and she helps coordinate Count, Play, Explore and works alongside key partners to align statewide efforts with the strengths and needs of diverse educators and children. And she leads some key projects within the initiative, including family engagement efforts, the STEAMworks project, and Count, Play, Explore messaging. So I now want to hand it over to Matilda to get us started on Count, Play, Explore's presentation.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you for inviting us to share about Count, Play, Explore. Count, Play, Explore helps children build early math, science, and computer science skills through playful learning experiences. We're proud to lead this work alongside our partners at the AIM Center, WestEd, and the California Early Math Project. When we look, if we can put it to the next slide. When we look at the story of Count, Play, Explore, what we really see is an evolution, a journey that began with the simple question, how can we help young children build a strong foundation in math through playful, everyday experiences? In 2016, the National Governors Association invited states to focus on elevating the importance of early math. States were encouraged to build networks and champions to support early math. California brought together a multi-agency team to identify critical needs, consider partnerships that could be leveraged, and identify strategies for improving resources and outcomes for children, families, and educators. Based on extensive interviews with higher education, county office of education, teacher credentialing programs, researchers, educators, and families, a strategic plan was developed and ultimately funded by the state legislature in 2018. The Office of the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, or FCSS, was selected to lead this initiative through a competitive grant process. The legislature has awarded Fresno with 2 subsequent investments to continue the early math work and to expand the scope to science and computer science. As this work continues, Count, Play, Explore has begin to focus on STEAM integration as an approach and is learning how to uplift arts in this approach. Arts has existed as a tool in many of the resources prior to last year, but CPE is looking for ways to be more intentional in bringing arts into this work. Go to the next slide. As Count, Play, Explore has grown, we've stayed in a clear set of we've remained, in a clear set of core principles that guide everything we do. We ground our work in 4 fundamental principles of early math, science, and computer science learning. Math, science, and computer science are everywhere. Math, science, and computer science are for everyone. Math, science, and computer science are fun and playful. And finally, math, science, and computer science mindsets matter. We also lead with equity for children and educators. We operate in all places children and families live, play, and learn across the full birth through third grade continuum. We leverage and align with state, regional, and local efforts, and we build towards sustainability. Next slide.
Hello, everyone. Count Play Explore is tasked with supporting professional development and family engagement across the state in math, science, and computer science for children from birth through third grade. Because children do not learn in isolation, Count Play Explore emphasizes an integrated approach, uplifting STEAM integration, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. This approach reflects how learning naturally occurs across domains and better supports children's development. By embracing STEAM integration, Count Play Explore provides multiple entry points for learning and ensures that children's educational experiences are connected to real-life contexts that feel meaningful and relevant. One of our core priorities is to foster a positive STEAM mindset in the adults who work with children. When educators and families model curiosity, creativity, and confidence in STEAM, children are more likely to adopt these same mindsets in their own learning. On the next slide, we can show how we believe that engagement increases as disciplines are connected and applied. We see that there are levels of connected disciplines. As you increase levels of integration, you shape a strong learning experience. We can see the disciplinary, where students learn concepts and skills separately in isolation, or multidisciplinary, where students learn concepts and skills separately in each discipline, but in reference to a common theme. Interdisciplinary, where students learn concepts and skills from two or more disciplines that are tightly linked so as to deepen knowledge and skills. And then transdisciplinary, where by taking on real-world problems or projects, students apply knowledge and skills from two or more disciplines and help to shape the learning experience. Our goal is to be as far to the right as possible, with interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary. I'll pass this now to my colleague Naomi on the next slide.
Our current cohort that began in April 2025 engages 30 agencies from across the state, including county offices, nonprofits, and school districts. This will have a focus on STEAM integration as an approach and will be grounded in math, science, and computer science. We use a cascade model to spread information and resources across the state. We will work directly with facilitators from each of those agencies, who then in turn work with a cohort of educators in their local contexts. The educators then bring back the resources and materials in their classroom to support children's STEAM learning. This cohort is focused on uplifting STEAM practices and sustainable local programs by building a professional learning program that is built into their existing systems. We will also focus on integrating family and community engagement and how this can be built into their system. The system helps us create resources that reflect California's diverse children and educators. Once we pilot resources with the cohort, they then become available to the public to use. Next slide. One way we have uplifted STEAM is during our 5-day institute this past June with our cohort. We designed a series called the STEAM Journeys. This was 4 unique sessions offered each day, which ensured that every participant had the opportunity to experience each one. Each STEAM journey was anchored in math, science, or computer science, with STEAM integration intentionally woven throughout to show how these subjects connect and support one another in practice. We were deliberate about uplifting the arts within STEAM. One entire session was devoted specifically to arts integration, and we embedded numerous opportunities for arts integration across other sessions. This structure not only showcased the importance of integration, but also modeled for participants how the arts can enrich and expand STEM learning, making STEAM both holistic and engaging. Next slide. I'll pass it over to Matilda.
So how can we involve our leadership in the work of Count Play Explore? When you connect with your site, district, or agency leaders, encourage them to support local facilitators and their implementation. Help them see that their voice and presence are essential to bringing STEAM learning to life. Encourage active partnership, not just support. Ask for their ideas, let them help shape how STEAM and the arts fit into existing priorities, and celebrate their involvement. Share the joy and creativity you're seeing in classrooms to inspire leaders and get them excited about the initiative's impact. That energy is truly contagious. Paint a quick vision of what's possible, how integrating STEAM in the arts can transform teaching, inspire families, and strengthen community connections. Invite leaders to witness and even join in hands-on playful STEAM activities to see the power of integrated arts in action. And finally, highlight sustainability. That leadership engagement ensures that this isn't a short-term project, but lasting change for kids and families. Next slide. Just as leadership plays a key role in driving this work forward, families are equally essential. CalPlay Explore is built on the belief that when families engage in STEAM, learning becomes more joyful, relevant, and lasting. Next slide. Children benefit when they engage in joyful STEAM interactions, when they explore STEAM through playful hands-on activities, when they receive positive messages about STEAM, and when they experience STEAM learning as part of their cultural and linguistic practices. Next slide. We go to the next slide. Oh, children build on it. Are we at the next?
This is about families. Families benefit here.
Right. Okay, well, I'll continue on with this lovely picture of family engagement and share how families benefit. So families benefit when we build on their awareness of the importance of STEAM learning for children, when we notice ways they are already supporting children's early STEAM learning, when we're learning more ways to engage in playful STEAM learning, and finally, when they feel an increased sense of belonging in the community and early learning setting. Now I'll pass to Naomi.
Matilda. As we just spoke about, CPE believes family engagement is essential. Families are children's first and most important educators. Strong engagement builds a powerful home-to-school connection and supports culturally responsive practices. It invites families to be active partners in the classroom and in their child's educational journey. On the screen, we have a few photos that showcase some of our resources that uplift family engagement and STEAM integration. These include math packs, family math nights, and interactive exhibits. Next slide. As we continue to uplift STEAM as an approach, we are being more intentional about how we highlight and elevate arts education as a vital component of integration. Arts integration is already present in some of our work, such as our interactive exhibits. Each exhibit is rooted in a science phenomenon and layered with opportunities for children to engage across STEAM domains, ensuring a truly integrated hands-on experience. We are also finding new spaces to uplift arts integration, including in our partners' makerspaces and in family engagement activities. By weaving arts into family engagement, we create multiple entry points for participation. This helps ensure that all children, regardless of background or starting point, have meaningful opportunities to engage in STEM through the arts. Arts integration is equally powerful in classroom spaces. We are being intentional in developing new resources that support educators in exploring these approaches with children, deepening creativity and broadening access to STEAM learning. Next slide.
We want to highlight one of our math resources that easily and supports art integration. For the book Color Zoo, we created, with a partnership from the Early Math Project, Animal Faces, an activity that has children create animal faces out of shapes. We encourage the teacher, family member, or caretaker to read the book and then use shapes to make different faces from the book or of their own. This could be a station or a center, done at home, or something available at a family engagement event. And now on our next and closing slide. Thank you so much for spending time learning about the Count, Play, Explore initiative. If anyone has questions, feel free to reach out. Our contact information is here on this slide, and we thank you for your time and all that Count, Play, Explore offers to family and educators.
Thank you, Matilda, John, and Naomi for sharing about Count, Play, Explore and all the great work you're doing. Next slide, please. I'm now going to transition us into our panel discussion. And we heard a lot of great examples of arts integration in STEAM from our presenters, heard about a little bit about leadership and funding and professional learning for STEAM, as well as an example of how a STEAM initiative like Count, Play, Explore is evolving and being implemented statewide across the birth through age 8 space. So in our panel today, we want to continue discussing these themes, but also hear more broadly about how STEAM implementers across the state are creating their programs, highlighting their successes, their challenges, and any advice they may have for you today. Next slide, please. So we have 4 panelists. Our first one is Daniel Mendoza, who is an early child educator. He's an artist and a program manager with over a decade of experience supporting children, families, and educators. And he specializes in building inclusive and culturally responsive environment and has led professional development on STEAM and early math initiatives. And our second panelist is Christy Hambleton. And following a career in high tech, she entered the field of education and spent 15 years in the classroom. And she's currently a curriculum coordinator for Lammersville Unified School District, where she coordinated and launched the ELOP program across 8 TK through 6th grade schools in March of 2023. Next slide, please. We also have today David Geringer, who leads Chatsworth Park Urban Planning and Community Magnet Elementary in Chatsworth, which is in LAUSD. And he has over 24 years of experience. And he promotes STEM and STEAM, robotics, and project-based learning, helping students thrive through exploration and productive struggle and hands-on engagement. And he believes that all students are capable to authentically engage in STEAM, including students in grades that may not traditionally engage in STEAM. We also have Maria Parker, and she is the STEAM administrator at the Monterey County Office of Education, and she supports 24 districts in advancing STEAM. And she leads professional learning for educators. She builds collaborative networks and organizes countywide events, including the Science and Engineering Fair. So we're really excited to have this group of panelists here today. If you could go to the next slide, please. We're going to talk through a couple of these questions to really, get juices flowing here about what are some of the bright spots of STEAM implementation in their settings, what challenges they have faced, how they have created buy-in and support for STEAM with their educators and families, and any advice they have for all of you here today who may be interested in starting a STEAM program or strengthening an existing STEAM initiative. So with that, I think we're going to take down the slides so we can see everybody. Hi, everyone. And we're gonna get started, I think, with the first question about bright spots of STEAM implementation and what impacts our panelists have seen for these STEAM initiatives in their programs. So first, I wanted to hand it over to David to provide to kind of highlight some of the bright spots that he's seen in his school.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I just was watching that some great information has been shared by all of our great speakers this afternoon. From a school site level administrating position, we have about 450 students on our campus, grades TK, which is our 4-year-olds, through our 5th grade. So there's a few activities that I'd like to share that we've been engaged with over the past few weeks. We've had 2 Saturdays we call Saturday STEAM Enrichment. A lot of concerns that I hear is finding the time and location. We know a lot of schools are doing after school intervention and a lot of students are engaged in a lot of activities. We worked away so that teachers are compensated, but we have, beginning in kindergarten, we've had 2 out of 4 Saturday rotations this fall. In the spring, we had 8 rotations of about 3 hours total and 3 rotations of about 45 minutes from kinder all the way through 5th grade. They are engaged in coding, Minecraft education, basic robotics, art, which was emphasized a lot today. Again, our K1, because of their age, basically they stay together while the other classrooms rotate through the different activities. We've received a lot of positive feedback. And again, what parent would not like an opportunity to drop their students off and basically get 3 hours of Saturday activity time for themselves or for ones who are either younger or older? Just yesterday, we had our fall PBL showcase event. All grade levels, kinder through 5th, had a showcase of PBL under the umbrella of urban planning, and each grade level was giving a criteria and allow differentiation so the students could create whatever comes to their mind within certain parameters.
That's awesome. Thank you, David. Yeah, I think the weekend time is definitely, a great opportunity to offer those types of opportunities for children and families. I want to move over to Daniel to share a little bit about what you've been up to and some bright spots you've seen with your STEAM initiatives.
Yes, thank you all again for having us here. Super appreciate the ability to share all this wonderful stuff and hear what everybody else is doing as well. We've had some really great response to all of this in our agency, in our county, in our region. Of course, like all the CPE stuff coming out of Fresno, with all that has been really great. One of our bright spots here at PCOE has been an implementation of our father literacy program, which was really focused on STEAM. So what father literacy is it happens the last Tuesday of every month, and it's designed for males in a child's life, whether it be a dad, an uncle, a grandfather, a big brother, anybody involved in the child's life is who we try to get into this group. And what we do is we get together. I put on my flyer that it's 30 minutes, but really I only make it about 10, 15 minutes because we know that time in the evening that they're at home, that it's important to make those connections and, spend time. So we try to make it as fast as possible. Usually it's like 10, 15 minutes. But we have a great conversation and we're math centered right now. We share reading strategies. We get them a book. So every time we do this, we get like 3 to 4 books, and we've been able to utilize different funds to make this happen. And they've all been around math. There might be also an activity that we give out, and we talk with the dads. I share a dialogical pedagogical reading strategies. I talk to them about reading the book ahead of time, pull out all the little math things that are happening in the book that you can make connections to community as well in there. And then we give them the books. And so that's 4 to 5 books every time. We meet 9 times a year. So you can do the math on that because we're all here about math. And then if possible, we also give those books to the school site as well. So I ask the fathers, the males, if they're going to a child care center or a school or a preschool, we give those books as well, so that they have that ability to see that connection at home, at school, as well, and build more into that. We've also been able to partner with libraries in our areas, as well as other groups, Sierra Native Alliance, school districts, and things like that. So that's been really great, and just kind of establishing that partnerships in the community, but also with families to let them know, like, you can do this, be fun. One of the things I always tell the dads, and I have a grandpa in there too, is like, what are your children going to remember? They'll probably remember that, yeah, you made them like mow the lawn every weekend or whatever it was, your chores. But what they're going to remember is that you read books to them, that you were silly, right? That you were having fun. So those are the things we try to implement to make STEAM, to show that it is accessible for everybody.
That's awesome, Daniel. Thanks for sharing those connections, especially with the community and families. I now want to pass it to Christy to share a little bit about your bright spots. I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. So yeah, again, I assisted with the launch in 2023 for our ELOP program, which is after school and during summer, about 500 students. And the goal when I facilitated and launched it was to have a STEAM and PBL based program, because those are my passions. And it has been extremely rewarding to watch our ELOP staff grow with their skills, developing their skills and confidence in delivering the STEAM education. And most importantly, our students are thriving academically and socially as their confidence grows through designing and building all of the STEAM projects. And I just like to say we use a lot of the STEAM projects. We do have products that we purchase that, like the Ozobots and the Legos, but I do believe in building from scratch. And I love using the recyclables as much as possible for the students to learn and grow with.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. Maria, what about you? What are some bright spots happening in your county?
Yes, so as far as our county, I mean, at every county office, we do offer professional learning opportunities from networks to after school, depending on the needs of our teachers and our administrators. And so in our STEAM team, we host things like our CalMSCS network. We have our VAPA network that also allows us to develop specific needs in regards to, like, we had our 2-day Summer Arts Institute where the focus was on STEAM. So for example, how can we bring in environmental literacy into the space with, upcycling, and also with the approach of play-based learning. And so also thinking about that with the expanded learning supports within our department. My colleague and I, we were collaborating with the expanded learning team where they host their Region 5 Rev Up event, where we had over 1,000 after-school educators, and the focus was on STEAM. And so we were thinking about how can we make this more cost effective so that while we are trying to support our teachers, how do we also support our classified staff with making sure they have access to resources so that their students are able to engage and get that hands-on experience. Also thinking about our CalMSCS efforts with our team, we've been looking at how to focus more on cross-content connections with computer science. So in Monterey County, we are taking the lead with computer science. And so just thinking about how will this look like in the classroom where it does require some component of coding, but there are also ways to introduce unplugged activities so that you're still teaching those computer science principles. And then also just thinking about how we help support our UPK world. We've been working closely with our UPK team in regards to unpacking the learning foundations as well as the learning progressions within science and arts. My colleague was helping with the math framework as well. And so just giving opportunities to have networking as well as building community within the spaces that we host at the county level.
That's awesome, Maria. Love the emphasis on PD and uplifting some of our resources like preschool TK learning foundations and our P3 learning progression. So I love to hear that. I wanted to shift into talking about, I know we're talking about bright spots, but there's also challenges, that come along with having a STEAM initiative. And I know, David, if you want to speak a little bit about some of your challenges that you've had with implementing the Saturday STEAM enrichment programs and the kind of sustainability of that.
Absolutely. As we are all aware, or may not be aware, schools for the 25, 26 and ongoing school budgets are going to be greatly impacted for a variety of reasons. So we were lucky to get a grant from Cal State University Northridge to kick off this fall's Saturday enrichment program. One of the challenges, or among many, is ongoing STEAM enrichment, which can include the funding as well as logistics and scheduling. As we know, nothing of great success will happen without hard work. So we are continuing to work on identifying and effectively using the funding that is allowed. At this school site, we also have constraints for space. We would love to have a space lab that we can have all the materials in one location, but that is problematic. Also, another big concern is building capacity in staff through effective, engaging professional development so that they feel that is appropriate, grade level appropriate. We don't want to overtax or overload our staff. So provide access points so they can feel comfortable with the materials, building their self-efficacy, building their confidence, and instilling that growth mindset that we want to see in adults and also in students.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Yeah, definitely funding is a big one, a big challenge for everything. But Christy, I know that you also want to talk a little bit about challenges with professional learning. So wanted to hand it over to you.
Yeah. And, training was definitely one of our largest challenges because we had a brand new program with 50 new staff members. We run our program with classified staff. So not necessarily everybody came with the STEAM background or education background. As we immediately began implementing monthly PDs, and they run from 60 to 90 minutes. And we use this time to train our staff mainly on the STEAM components that we use. And I do the training, or we bring the vendors in to do the training. And now we have incorporated showcase at the end of each training where the staff are bringing in the projects that they have been working on with the students. And it's just been exceptionally rewarding because they're wanting to do it and they're excited to bring in the projects and show them off and train the other staff members on how to do it.
That's awesome. Thanks, Christy. And I want to move on to our next question around creating buy-in and support for STEAM among educators. First, starting with Maria, and then I'll pass it off to Daniel about some of that creating buy-in. So Maria?
Yes. So as far as creating buy-in, we're looking at, creating that alignment with already existing initiatives. So for example, when it comes to Prop 28, part of the initiative is also to have where most of the funds are intended to hire staff. That 20% of the monies that are coming in is intended for professional learning opportunities. And so the conversations we have with our educators would be, looking at your strategic arts plan, just like Janine was sharing earlier, what materials do you need? What curriculum do you need? What trainings are required? And so thinking about having those conversations within our spaces through our networks, or even going in at the school site and having these conversations with the school site administrators so that they're able to bring that back to their LEA and have those conversations to connect back with their LCAP goals. Also thinking about, other initiatives that are happening right now with the state is, science is going on the dashboard, and what is that going to mean in terms of supporting those systems in place? Even thinking about, in addition to having these conversations, having model districts and model LEAs share success stories, I think is also really impactful for anyone that might be interested in just getting started with their STEAM program. And so doing that spotlight with, hey, here's a local school district that you may already have worked with before, and here's what they're doing in terms of their Prop 28 funds, or thinking about how they managed to change their LCAP goals to be more in alignment with the following supports within the STEAM education world.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's super helpful to highlight. And we're always looking for, those model programs to share. And so we don't have to, reinvent the wheel, as they say, and really learn from others. And thank you for elevating to the science dashboard. Science is now on the dashboard, I think is a really great achievement for us as a state. Daniel, did you want to also jump in around how you've helped to create some buy-in?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for us, it was kind of really natural in early ed, in preschool, because we're play-based. So when you start talking about like integration, we kind of already do it, right? And so we're like, okay, everybody was really on board. We started talking about all these little pieces that we could do, talking about we find math in everyday just activities from the time the children walk in to the time they leave. Like math is everywhere and all around us. I think what we were trying to do, and especially at PCOE is, and with our districts, is trying to get that buy-in from the TK folks. So doing a lot of work in professional development with TK teachers and working on stopping that trickle down, and our message has always been pushing up, so we're trying to push up early education into TK because it's preschool, right? They're 4 years old, and they're in there, and so it was working with them to design activities and an understanding of what play-based and STEAM really look like. And the biggest, I think, factor to that was them understanding that when children are engaged and not having these like high expectations or expected to sit at this center for 20 minutes and then move to the next one for 20, that you can do this, that it helps lower behaviors and they're more engaged. And that's the big thing. I mean, we're all hearing it across the state, right? Behaviors. So when we talked about this, and it's like, you're going to get your math in there, you're going to get your science, you're going to get your language and literacy, but most of all, you're going to get that like behavior management and that engagement with them. That was really where we got the buy-in from districts and the TK teachers, because they're like, well, I can't teach them about patterning because they're not listening. And I'm trying to get them to stay here and do this patterning activity. It's like, well, patterning happens at the Play-Doh table, patterning happens in the block area. Like they don't have to sit there and do a worksheet. So that was really a great thing to see and share with them. And it really did kind of get them to buy in. And we started doing this a year or so ago. And just this year, it was like last minute, one of the districts reached out and they're like, can you come do a STEAM presentation like next Friday? Because they all want to do this work. And we're like, yes, okay, that's like perfect. So it's really great to see that.
That's awesome. I love the emphasis on impacts and really showing, people how the actual impacts that this has. And I think no one can argue too how engaging STEAM activities are, especially the ones that Amy shared at the beginning of this presentation. I wanted to do those activities after she shared them. And so I think that's, really, really, really love how you elevated that, and the focus on integration. So in our last remaining minutes, if anyone want to share any advice you would have to someone who in the audience, perhaps, who would want to start or strengthen their STEAM initiative, and maybe David, if you want to start.
Absolutely. From a site leader's perspective, there's almost a dichotomy between enthusiasm and vision versus realistic expectations. So if I could offer any tidbits of advice, be realistic, start small, Pick your early adapters, the ones who basically have and are willing to learn, have this growth mindset that we all, as Dr. Zick promotes. Be realistic and flexible in expectations. Provide as many resources as we can, which could include extra planning time if they need certain materials. Basically, we don't want to be the barrier, especially if they want to start the new initiative.
Awesome. I know, Maria, you have, or Christy, you have a similar, wanted to build off of that. So pass it to you.
Yes, start small. I can't stress it enough because I remember, especially with the school district, you tend to buy in bulk at the beginning of the year. You have a warehouse full of these amazing STEAM components you want to implement and you want it done yesterday. And it's overwhelming. So just start small, pick one, train, use the resources that you have, make sure the students understand how to use them before moving on. And also STEAM does not have to be an exuberant expense. I love the garbage table idea. I've always used that as a teacher because I was a teacher. So, recycling items are your best friends.
Awesome. And Maria, you have any words of wisdom?
Yes, I mean, first of all, I would highly recommend to reach out to your county office, depending on where you are located, because we all have a variety of professional learning opportunities, so that if you're still feeling like I don't feel confident in teaching or integrating, whatever it may be, highly recommend reaching out to them so that you're not feeling alone or that you're not needing to reinvent the wheel, because we have an abundance of resources for you, as well as making sure that we make the time where if you can't make it to us, we can go to your school site and support you, as well as just thinking about, just like was mentioned earlier, who are your school leaders, so that they're also having those collaboration moments with you and also being able